Single dad exposed, 30 incredible seconds that changed everything after being denied his own room. Jake's heart raced as he entered the community hall, the chatter of neighbors pressing around him like an anxious tide. He clutched Mia's small hand tightly, her bright eyes full of trust, oblivious to the storm brewing in his chest. Just hours earlier, the shelter had turned him away, their words slicing through him like a cold winter wind. "We can't accommodate your situation." A clipped sentence, stark as a January day, shattered his dreams of providing stability for Mia. Each day was a grind, serving up meals at the local diner while hustling to pay bills that felt heavier than lead. When he caught sight of families around him, parents laughing, children darting between them, he felt a stab of isolation. Mia needed a home, not just a roof over her head. As he met her gaze, he felt the weight of his promise to give her everything his own father hadn't. It was slipping through his fingers faster than he could catch it. "Dad, are we going to get dinner soon?" Her innocent question pulled him back from the brink of his worries. It filled his heart with warmth. "Sure, kiddo." But deep down, the thought lingered, would he even be able to afford to feed her tonight? The community potluck was in full swing, the aroma of various dishes wafting through the air. Jake inhaled deeply, hoping the scent of fried chicken would stir up a pang of nostalgia. It did, grounding him in the moment, even as a wave of distraction passed as neighbors gathered to share their stories. The tension ebbed and flowed, laughter blending with heated conversations. But underneath, he felt the whispers, the ones that followed him like shadows. "Did you hear? He was denied again." The judgment stung, but he held Mia more tightly, knowing that her belief in him was the only lifeline he needed. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just then, a local veteran stood up, a man weathered yet dignified. He held the room's attention like a spotlight shining down, clearing the air with the weight of his own battles. "Family isn't just about having a house," he spoke, voice steady but passionate. "It's about love, perseverance, and standing by one another no matter what." His words ignited a fire in the crowd, sparking empathy from some and resistance from others. The air thickened with tension, eyes darting between Jake and the veteran. Just when hope bubbled like warm coffee, Jake's phone vibrated violently in his pocket, shattering the moment. It was news he feared to read. His chest tightened. This was a life-altering moment, laying bare all his struggles and dreams. What would he say? Would anyone understand? He took a deep breath, eyes scanning the faces around him, searching for support. Would they see not just a struggling single dad, but a man fighting for his daughter's future? Hope clung to his heart, ready to explode or extinguish in an instant. What would happen next? The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Jake's voice to fill the silence. Jake's heart felt like a drum in his chest, each beat echoing the tremors in his hands as he finally pulled out the phone. The screen lit up, displaying a message from the local housing authority, a word he dreaded to see: urgent. He drew in a sharp breath, glancing down at Mia, her innocent curiosity pulling at his heartstrings. The weight of the message tugged at his gut, but he had to focus. This was about her. Whatever news awaited him could wait a moment longer. He needed to show her that even amidst turmoil, he was still her rock. He pocketed the phone, determinedly directing his attention toward the gathering. The veteran's speech faded into the background as Jake noticed a table filled with casseroles, jars of pickles, and platters of someone's famous apple pie. His stomach growled loudly, reminding him that even if they had to stretch their limited funds for food, there was always hope in a community that shared. "Let us go check out the food, Mia," he said, forcing a smile that felt feeble but necessary. With an excited bounce, she was on her feet, tugging him toward the table with the authority of a well-versed connoisseur. As he watched her devour a slice of homemade cornbread, laughter bubbled from her lips. It warmed his heart like a soft blanket, a moment of pure joy amid the chaos. He wanted to remember this, to hold on to it even when the shadows loomed larger. "In a few weeks, we'll have our own place," he whispered to her, half hoping it to be true. "Just you wait." Her eyes sparkled, and she looked up at him, unwavering. For Mia, a tent in their backyard still felt like a castle. But as the night wore on, the atmosphere thickened with whispers and uncomfortable glances. Jake noticed how people's conversations grew quiet when he approached. They didn't mean to be cruel, but the looks he received were filled with pity. And the pity cut deeper than any judgment. Amid the potluck chatter, Jake felt simmering resentment as one neighbor, an elderly woman with a warm smile, leaned into the throng and declared, "It's not easy for anyone, but we must understand the limits." The murmurs intensified, and Jake felt the names swirling around him: irresponsible, lost. He tightened his grip on Mia's hand, willing the storm of humiliation to pass. They should have known that his fight was about more than just finding a place to stay. He was building a future, pouring every ounce of love he had into that future. Just as his heart began to sink, the veteran spoke again, breaking through the heavy atmosphere. "It doesn't matter if you're down, what matters is getting back up." His words infused energy back into the room, lifting spirits and, at least for Jake, fueling his courage. Jake turned back to his phone. The message loomed heavy in his mind. What was it the housing authority wanted? Whatever it was, it could change everything for him and Mia. Would he find that doorway swinging open, or would he face another wall of denial? With renewed strength, he reached for the phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. His heart raced with possibility and dread. It was time to confront the truth. He had to know what came next. As he pushed the button to read the message, the room faded away, leaving only the pulse of his beating heart and Mia's hopeful gaze. What awaited Jake behind that screen could change everything. The screen lit up, and with a shaky breath, Jake read the message. "We have received your application for housing assistance. Please respond to schedule an interview." Just like that, the words struck with the force of a thunderclap, echoing through the hall of whispers around him. His heart raced. An interview could lead them to a home. A real home. Mia's laughter still danced in the air, but it felt distant now. He glanced at her, her small face illuminated by the warm glow of the potluck lights. She was blissfully munching her cornbread, unaware of the struggle that lay ahead. Jake felt a surge of protectiveness, mingling with the urgency of the message. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly, bending down to her level. "We might have a chance soon, to get a place of our own." Her eyes widened, a smile blooming like spring flowers in her garden of hope. "Really? Like a real house?" "Yeah," he affirmed, his voice steadying as he wiped the anxiety from his brow. "We'll have our own space." But even as he spoke, doubts crept in. Families didn't just get handed keys, they worked hard for them. What if they still said no? New life held so much promise, yet the barriers felt insurmountable. He nestled the phone back in his pocket, feeling the weight of the moments ahead. The gathering energy surrounded him without lifting the heaviness in his heart. Leaving Mia to enjoy her treat, he stepped aside, pretending to admire the old photographs that adorned the walls. Each picture captured a moment of joy, love, and community, everything Jake yearned for. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through. "You okay, Jake?" It was Tom, the neighbor who always checked in, a kind-hearted guy who often wore his intentions like a badge of honor. Yeah, just trying to think," Jake replied, forcing a smile, though his stomach churned with uncertainty. Tom studied him for a moment. "You know, we're all rooting for you, right? Enough bad luck. It'll turn around." He nodded, but couldn't shake the unease. What if no one believed he could do this? What if people continued to talk? As the evening wore on, Jake stayed close to Mia, feeling a blend of hope and despair. Together, they made small talk with other parents, exchanging nothing more than pleasantries while silently gauging how others perceived his struggles. Every whispered comment shot through the room like arrows, yet there was also companionship to be found. Then, without warning, Mia tugged at his shirt, her voice brightening with a spark of mischief. "Dad, look! Can we go outside? They have those cool lights." He glanced out the door to where twinkling fairy lights illuminated the yard, creating a backdrop of magic against the darkening evening sky. "Sure, let us check them out." As they stepped outside, the cool air wrapped around them like a hug. The laughter of children rang in the distance, their joy a bright contrast to the whispered worries inside. Here, he could breathe easier. Suddenly, his phone vibrated in his pocket again. The familiar knot twisted in his gut as he pulled it out. Another notification flashed across the screen. He instinctively swallowed. The message had come from the housing authority again, but this time it bore different words: "Please call immediately." Mia swung around to him, her eyes alight with excitement. He felt the weight of the moment crashing down. What did it mean? What could they want now? "Stay close, okay? I just need a moment," he said, as he stepped away, his heart pounding. He stared at the phone, wrestling with fear. He could feel it, the turning point he had been hoping for, or perhaps another brick in the wall built against him. Jake took a deep breath and pressed the call button, the world fading around him. Would this be the moment that changed everything, or just another disappointment in this long journey? As the call connected, Jake was met with an automated message. "Thank you for calling the housing assistance line. All representatives are currently busy. Please hold." Holding. It felt like waiting for a train that might never arrive. He stood there, fingers nervously tapping against the phone, glancing back at Mia, her laughter catching in the air like soft music, unaware of the storm looming over them. He could hear her little giggles mingling with the chatter of children running around, chasing the flickering lights, their innocent joy starkly contrasting with the worry knotting tighter in his stomach. What was taking so long? Each second felt like an eternity. He closed his eyes, focusing on the voices of the kids outside, and tried to quiet the thoughts churning in his head. Then, a voice broke through, a woman's voice, warm yet all business. "Hello, you've reached the housing assistance line. How can I assist you today?" I received a message saying I needed to call." Jake's voice felt small, almost swallowed by the urgency of the moment. "It's about my application, yes, Mr. Taylor. Thank you for your call. We need to discuss your application for housing assistance, and I see you have an interview scheduled." Jake's heart raced. "Yes. I want to know. Unfortunately, we need to address a concern," she interrupted gently but firmly. "There's a document missing from your application. Without it, we cannot approve your request for an interview." His heart sank. "What document?" "A proof of income," she stated with clarity. "We need that before we can proceed." Proof of income. The words hung in the air like a weight, sinking his heart further. His job at the diner barely gave him enough for rent, let alone documents that might prove stability. "But I have my pay stubs," he stammered, biting his lip, frustration rising. "Please complete that documentation," she emphasized. "Once submitted, we can reschedule your interview." "Right. Okay. Thank you." The call ended, and Jake stood in a daze, the phone slipping from his fingers. Mia called out softly, her innocent curiosity pulling him from his thoughts. "Daddy? What did they say?" He turned to her, forcing a smile. "We need some papers, hon, nothing we can't handle." "Okay. We can find the papers." She chirped, and her optimism lit a spark inside Jake. He wanted to believe her. The rest of the evening drifted on, and they stayed outside longer than planned, watching kids weave through the garden, running after each other. Mia picked a tiny flower, holding it out to him with pride. "Look, Dad. A present for you." Jake took it, even though his heart was heavy. "It's beautiful. Just like you," he said, running his thumb over the little flower while thoughts cycled through his mind. His daughter could bring light to the darkest of moments, but how could he ensure their future? That night, exhaustion washed over him. They crawled into the small bed they had shared for far too long. Mia snuggled in, her warmth bringing a sense of comfort. As Jake lay there, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the conversation replaying in his mind, he knew what he had to do. But the question lingered like a ghost: how would he gather the documents he needed? The clock ticked in the background, a constant reminder that time was moving forward, whether he was ready or not. As he closed his eyes, a fierce determination began to bloom within him. Tomorrow, he'd take the first step. He must. And just as sleep was starting to take him, a thought struck him like a lightning bolt: was there a chance he could reach out to Tom for help? Would he step out of his comfort zone for a friend? Tomorrow would unravel a new chapter, and Jake could feel a shift in the air. Hope flickered like the lights outside, but could it burn bright enough to lead him out? The sun peeked through the thin curtains in the morning, casting a soft glow over the room. Jake woke up to the sweet sound of Mia humming a tune, her little voice dancing around the corners of the small space. He blinked slowly, stretching as the events of the previous evening settled into his consciousness like a heavy blanket. Today, he promised himself, he would reach out for help. "Daddy, can we have pancakes?" Mia chirped, bouncing on the edge of the bed, her enthusiasm a bright contrast to Jake's lingering doubt. "Sure, kiddo. Pancakes it is," he replied, forcing energy into his voice. They moved to the tiny kitchen, where the weathered appliances sat ready for duty. As he whisked the batter, memories of Tom played in his mind. They had been friends since childhood, sharing everything from candy to secrets. But life had a way of pushing people apart. Jake hadn't spoken to Tom in months, not since the fallout over jobs, dreams, and perhaps a deeper sense of worry that had crept in. The thought of calling him now felt daunting, like standing at the edge of a cliff. Mia's laughter pulled him back. She was twirling in the small kitchen, lost in her own world. Watching her, Jake felt a flicker of hope. "All right, pancakes are ready. Just like the ones you love," he said, flipping the last one onto a plate. "Yay! Pancakes!" Mia shouted, her eyes shining like stars. They settled at the table, and as he watched her devour the pancakes, the weight of his worry began to lift, if only just a little. Maybe reaching out to Tom didn't have to be so hard. She was his reason, his constant reminder of why he needed to keep fighting, to keep believing. As they finished breakfast, Mia looked up, crumbs dotting her cheeks. "Are we going to your friend's house today?" Jake hesitated. "I'm thinking of calling him first. Can I help?" she asked innocently. How could she not feel the tension? Still, he smiled, nodding. "You can be my cheerleader." Mia clapped her hands excitedly and jumped off her chair. "I'm the best cheerleader. Go, Daddy, go." With her encouragement swirling in the air, Jake pulled out his phone. His hands shook a little as he searched for Tom's number, memories of laughter and late-night conversations flooding his mind. Finally, he pressed call, anticipation churning in his stomach. The phone rang. Once, twice Jake held his breath. Each tone felt like an eternity. And then, just as he was about to hang up, the call connected. "Hey, Jake." Tom's voice resonated with warmth, a familiarity that made Jake feel both relieved and anxious. "Hey, Tom. It's been a while. Yeah, man, it has. What's up?" Tom's easygoing tone sent a wave of comfort through him. Jake hesitated, wrestling with the words. I need your help." The conversation flowed shared laughter, hints of concern, and the moving pieces of their lives. Jake explained his situation, his voice tight with uncertainty. It felt both freeing and terrifying to admit his struggle. Tom remained silent for a moment, processing that Jake, the steady one, was reaching out for help. I'm here for you, man. Whatever you need. Let us figure it out together, he replied. Jake felt an unexpected swell of gratitude. Just then, Mia peeked over his shoulder, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. Did he say yes? He nodded, hardly believing it himself. He did. Yay! Go, Daddy! She exclaimed, twirling in joy. As they hung up, Jake's heart was light, but a new challenge loomed close. Now, he had to follow through and gather the necessary documents. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but it felt possible, almost exhilarating. As Mia grabbed her tiny backpack and announced that they were going on an adventure, Jake took a deep breath. He stood at the door, ready to step outside. This was just the beginning, and he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. But even as he felt buoyed by Tom's support, another worry brewed in the back of his mind: what if he failed to gather those documents? What if all this effort didn't land them the stability they so desperately needed? The day stretched ahead like an unwritten page, and each choice felt monumental. Would they find what they needed? Would hope guide their steps, or would uncertainty shadow their adventure? Jake could only hold on to the flicker of determination that ignited every time he looked at Mia. Tomorrow, he thought, would write another chapter in their story. But for now, he needed to focus on today. The open door invited the possibility of tomorrow, yet the urgency of the moment loomed like a storm cloud. Would he have the courage to face it all? As Jake stepped outside, a warm breeze greeted him, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and the distant sound of children laughing. It was a typical Saturday morning, yet everything felt different. The weight of uncertainty still clung to him, but with Mia at his side, he felt a little lighter. "Where are we going, Daddy?" Mia asked, her eyes wide with excitement. Her curiosity was infectious, pulling him into the moment. "We're going to start checking off some things on our list," he replied, forcing a confident smile. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. On it, he had scribbled the essentials he needed: birth certificates, proof of income, and a myriad of forms. It felt daunting as he stared at the messy ink. "Can I help?" she asked again, her little fingers reaching for the paper. "Absolutely. What do you think we should start with?" Mia thought for a moment. "The birth certificates. Because that's us, right?" "Right," he chuckled, ruffling her hair. "Let us go to the social services office first. They'll help us." As they walked, Mia chattered non-stop, recounting stories from school and her interactions with friends. Jake listened, enraptured but secretly anxious about the tasks ahead. Each step brought him closer to the office and to the looming sense of possibility. Upon arriving, the building loomed over them, sterile and intimidating. The bright fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glare. Inside, it was bustling with people, all facing their own concerns. Jake's heart raced as he held the door for Mia, whose little hand squeezed his tightly. They approached the counter, and the worker behind it looked up, offering a polite smile. "How can I help you today?" Jake cleared his throat, feeling suddenly exposed under her gaze. We need to request some birth certificates." "Of course. I just need to see some ID and proof of residence." Jake felt his chest tighten as he rummaged through his wallet. The bills crumpled in his pocket seemed to weigh down on him. He had nearly nothing that qualified. But he touched the edge of the driver's license, the flimsy card a lifeline. He passed it over, along with a recent utility bill. The woman glanced at the documents. "Thank you. Just a moment while I process this." As Mia fidgeted at his side, Jake's heart began to pound. What if the worker found the papers insufficient? What if she turned them away? "Daddy, I'm hungry." Mia suddenly piped up, her little belly growling audibly. "Just a second, sweetie. We'll grab something soon," he said, unable to shake the growing anxiety. The worker returned with a polite smile, her hands clutching a small stack of papers. "Here you go. Your request has been approved. You'll receive the documents in the mail within a couple of weeks. Relief washed over Jake like a warm wave. Thank you. Thank you so much. He exclaimed, feeling gratitude flood his veins. Mia jumped up and down, joy radiating from her. See, Daddy. We did it. Yes, we did. You're the best cheerleader. He grinned, taking her small hand in his. They stepped outside, the sun kissing their faces. Now, about that food, Jake chuckled, looking down at his daughter, who was beaming with pride. Can we get ice cream? She asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. Let us make it a special treat. He squeezed her hand, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. As they wandered toward the local cafe, the breath of freedom filled his lungs. But just as they turned the corner, Jake's joy dimmed. A shadow loomed over him, a shared memory of a conversation with Tom about failing to chase dreams, the dangers lurking when you compromised too much. He watched Mia skip ahead, blissfully unaware, and felt a tug of fear. Would he be enough? Would trying to gather the remaining documents push them into deeper uncertainty? He shook his head, trying to dispel the worry. But as they approached the cafe, another thought crept in: what if there was more at stake than just documents? Jake felt the flicker of determination flicker again. One step at a time, he reminded himself, one choice in a sea of countless others. Little did he know, that day would open another door. What awaited them inside that cafe would change everything. As they pushed the cafe door open, the sweet aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the subtle scent of pastries greeted them. The colorful decorations and cheerful chatter of patrons created a warm atmosphere, contrasting sharply with the icy grip of Jake's lingering anxiety. Mia tugged at his shirt, her eyes scanning the menu board curiously. Daddy, look! They have cupcake ice cream! She exclaimed with pure delight. He chuckled, his heart warming at her enthusiasm. Let us get in line. You can pick your favorite. As they waited, he watched her bounce on her heels, so consumed by the moment that she seemed to radiate joy. It was contagious. When it was their turn, Mia excitedly chose her treat, a bright pink cupcake topped with whipped cream and colorful sprinkles. Jake ordered a strong coffee, hoping it would fortify his spirit for the day ahead. As they found a small table by the window, Mia's delight lit up the space around them. Cheers to us! She said, raising her ice cream high. He mirrored her movement with his cup, and they clinked over their shared excitement, laughter bubbling effortlessly between them. But just as he took a deep breath to relax, a familiar voice broke the moment. Jake! Is that you? He turned, and there stood Rebecca, an old friend, her arms crossed and a skeptical expression on her face. The warmth of the cafe suddenly felt cold. Hey, Rebecca, he replied cautiously, unsure whether to pull Mia closer or play it cool. What brings you here? Just grabbing a quick bite. You know how it is. She glanced at Mia, her brow furrowing slightly. So, how's life treating you? Jake's heart raced. He could sense the judgment lurking in her eyes, a reminder of all his insecurities. Oh, just keeping busy. Mia here is keeping me on my toes. Right, Rebecca said, her tone skeptical. I didn't realize. You're doing this all on your own now. Mia, oblivious to the tension, looked between them. Daddy's the best. Jake smiled at her, feeling a swell of pride but facing Rebecca's piercing gaze. It's been a journey, he admitted, sensing the weight of her assessment. He couldn't help but feel exposed. Here he was, a single dad fumbling through the challenges, while life seemed to mock him with its complexities. I heard things got tough, Rebecca continued, her voice lowering. I mean, splitting up could be hard on a kid. The words cut deep, almost primal. We're doing okay, Jake managed, his pulse quickening. Mia is everything to me. Sure, but have you considered all the things you're giving up? She pressed, leaning a little closer. I don't want to see you fail, be a statistic. Her hesitation lingered, but in Mia's eyes, he saw defiance. She was proud of their journey. And that made him feel fierce. I'm trying to build a good life, despite the struggles, he replied, his voice steadier now, fueled by determination. Rebecca seemed unconvinced, but Jake dismissed her doubts, focusing instead on Mia, who was digging into her ice cream. Let's not talk about me, he said, steering the conversation away from the painful edges of his past. Tell me what you're up to. As they exchanged pleasantries, Jake felt moments of discomfort but pushed through. The cafe buzzed around him, and for a moment, he was able to tune it out. Mia's laughter echoed in his ears, weaving a little bubble of happiness that he almost feared to shatter. But just as relief washed over him, an unexpected sound shattered the moment a loud crash echoed from the back of the cafe. Jake turned just in time to see a figure stumble, knocking over a trellis of pastries. Heart racing, he instinctively rose to help, already anticipating chaos. What would he discover next as situations spiraled unexpectedly? Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he dashed toward the source of the commotion. The clatter of broken ceramic melded with a gasp from the crowd, drawing the eyes of every patron. Mia's voice called after him, "Daddy, wait." But he didn't slow down. At the rear of the cafe, two young men were picking themselves off the floor, one still clutching the shattered remains of a pie dish as if it were a trophy. Their laughter rang out, completely unbothered by the mess they had caused. Behind them, a flustered barista rushed over, her face a mix of concern and irritation. "Hey! You can't just," she started, but her words fell flat as the pie flinger grinned, carefree, swiping icing off his shirt and licking it off his finger. Jake stepped closer, instinct taking over. Would this escalate? What if it ruined Mia's moment? Just as he was about to intervene, he caught sight of her peeking from behind a chair, her wide eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and fear. "Everything all right, buddy?" Jake asked, his voice firm but even, addressing the pie slinger directly. "You gotta be careful. Relax, man." The guy replied, still laughing, oblivious to the chaos he had caused. "It was just an accident kind of." He nudged his friend, who feigned a dramatic sigh, sending them both into a fit of laughter again. Jake felt the stirrings of anger bubble within him. It wasn't just about the mess or the disruption, it was about the potential impact on his daughter. This was why he was struggling so hard, trying to keep stability in their lives. "Mia, why don't you stay with that lady who just came in? The one by the door. I'll be right back." He forced a steady smile, his voice low and reassuring, even as he mentally braced for whatever might come next. "Okay, Daddy," she said, trusting him enough to let go of her hand. He swiftly moved closer to the two young men, his instincts on high alert. "Listen, can we tone it down a bit? You're disrupting a lot of people here." And just like that, his words deflected off their careless arrogance. "Oh come on. It's a cafe, not a library." The pie thrower shot back, still giggling like a fool. Jake's eyes narrowed. "You don't think it matters to the people trying to enjoy their day? Or to this little girl?" The laughter disappeared for a fraction of a moment as the pie thrower looked back towards Mia, who was now mesmerized by the barista handing her a fresh cupcake. "Ah, come on. We were just having fun," he said, almost defiantly. "Your fun shouldn't come at the expense of others," Jake replied, every word like a weighted statement. The air thickened with tension. Around them, people turned their heads, some murmuring in disbelief. Jake could feel the weight of their eyes on him. The moment felt pivotal. Just as he was preparing to escalate, a voice rang out from behind him. "Jake." It was Rebecca. He turned, both relieved and confused. "What's up?" he said, keeping his tone calm although emotions were riling inside. "Do you need help here?" she asked, her expression casting away any earlier skepticism. Perhaps a flicker of empathy illuminated her features. Jake opened his mouth to respond, but before he could gather his thoughts, the pie thrower broke in. You with him? Rebecca exchanged a glance with Jake and took a step closer to them. Actually, I think you should apologize for messing up. For an instant, Jake stood stunned as Rebecca's unexpected support unfolded before him. The pie slinger and his friend exchanged glances, caught off guard by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Jake found himself wondering if maybe he didn't have to shoulder this all alone. Would Rebecca's surprising intervention spark a new connection between them? Would they be able to reach the careless young men who had momentarily disrupted this fragile day? The tension began to crackle in the air like an approaching storm. The atmosphere shifted palpably as Rebecca's words hung in the air. Jake glanced at her, sensing a shared determination to cut through the bravado of the pie thrower and his friend. He stood taller, feeling bolstered by her presence. Exactly, he added, trying to match her confidence. You've made a mess, and it's not just about you guys anymore. The pie slinger's smirk faltered for a brief moment, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. The laughter that had defined his demeanor lessened, replaced by an awkward silence as the realization that they weren't just being funny kids hit them. The barista, who had been trying to keep everyone calm, nodded slowly, her stance shifting from frustration to a subtle agreement. Look, it was an accident, okay? The pie thrower finally said, his bravado now cracking at the edges. He crossed his arms defensively, glancing at his friend for backup. Yeah, we'll clean it up. No big deal. No big deal. Rebecca countered, her voice firm but kind. Accidents happen, but that doesn't mean you get to mess things up and walk away. People come here to relax. Murmurs of approval rippled through the cafe. Jake could almost feel the crowd rallying behind them, their shared indignation forging a bond against the recklessness of the two young men. He watched as Mia, still with the barista, took a tentative step closer, her curiosity piqued. Let's just be better about it next time. How about an apology? Jake suggested, feeling a flicker of hope that maybe this moment could lead to something positive. The pie slinger seemed to read the room, the tension draining from his posture. Okay, he mumbled, looking down at the broken shards scattered around them. Sorry, everyone. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him, like a cool breeze on a sweltering day. This could be a turning point. Thanks, he replied, letting a little warmth seep into his voice. We appreciate it. Another glance from Rebecca told him that they had made headway. She smiled at him, an expression of camaraderie blooming between them. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad after all. But just then, to everyone's shock, the other young man piped up, yeah, well, can we have a cupcake too, then? His tone was teasing, but the mischief still lingered, a shadow of the earlier chaos. The barista's eyes rolled dramatically. Nice try, she said with a half-smile, but you broke a pie dish, not a deal. The laughter returned, filling the space with lighter energy as even the pie thrower joined in, albeit sheepishly. Mia, still watching from her safe space, giggled at the scene, her fears momentarily forgotten. Jake felt a warmth unfurling inside as he looked at her smile. Maybe it was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. Come on, Jake said to Rebecca as he motioned towards Mia, let's grab that cupcake for her. She deserves a treat after this drama. Rebecca nodded, falling into step beside him. Good idea, she said, and he felt that unspoken connection deepen again. Perhaps they were building something unexpected, navigating through the trials of parenthood and messy cafe days together. As he strolled to the counter, he couldn't help but wonder if this wasn't just a passing encounter. Could this spontaneous support spark something more? But as Jake turned to say something more to the pie thrower, a sudden ruckus at the door caught his attention. The cafe door swung open, and suddenly the atmosphere shifted once more. A young mother rushed in, her face pale and eyes wide with desperation. Has anyone seen a little boy, about 4 years old? He was just here. Her voice rose above the buzz of the cafe, slicing through the lightheartedness. Jake's heart raced. Chills crept up his spine. Mia was right next to him, naive to the fear swirling around the room. He knew what it felt like to feel lost, just like that young mother. Without thinking, Jake instinctively scanned the tables, catching glimpses of nervous faces. "Mia," he said steadily, kneeling down to her level. "Stay close to me, okay? I'll keep you safe." She nodded, her eyes now wide with concern. The tension climbed as more people turned to help. Rebecca stepped forward, her initial skepticism replaced by an urgency. "I'll help look," she declared, rushing towards the back. Jake nodded, his heart thudding in rhythm with the growing sense of community. At that moment, he understood something profound: they were all in this together. He felt the weight of vulnerability that had settled over him begin to lift as he stepped into action. "Let us move, everyone," Jake called out. "If you see anyone wandering around, let us know." Mia grabbed his hand tightly, her tiny fingers squeezing with an uncharacteristic intensity. They moved toward the door, ready to search the parking lot and outside areas. But as Jake stepped into the sunlight, he spotted a small figure on the playground across the street, little feet darting between swings. "There!" he shouted, pointing toward the child, relief washing over him like a tidal wave. Without a moment's hesitation, he dashed across the street, Mia in tow, heart racing with a mix of fear and adrenaline. The young mother followed closely behind, her face etched with worry but shifting rapidly into relief when she spotted her son. "Mikey!" she cried out, rushing toward the child who stood absorbed in the joy of the swing set, entirely unaware of the chaos he had caused. Jake felt a swell of relief. In that moment, as the boy leaped into his mother's arms, the warmth returned. Laughter erupted from the small crowd that had formed, lifting the heaviness that had threatened to plunge the day back into darkness. "Mia, look," Jake said, kneeling down again to her height. "See how happy he is to be with his mom. That's what family is about, sticking together." Mia smiled brightly, now more aware of what he meant. "Yes, Daddy. I like when everyone helps each other." The mother, still clutching her child, turned her grateful eyes on Jake and the gathering crowd. "Thank you. You all were amazing," she shouted, tears of relief glistening in her eyes. And all at once, Jake felt transformed. The energy in the cafe circulated, darting between them like a chain of spark plugs, igniting courage and kindness. He realized he was part of something bigger than his own struggles. As they headed back inside, feeling triumphant, Jake found Rebecca glancing back at him with a smile. "You know, maybe sometimes it takes chaos to bring people together," she remarked, chuckling while Mia swamped Jake with excitement. "Yeah," he admitted, a carefree laugh bubbling up. "Good chaos. As long as we can always lift each other up." Mia tugged at his sleeve, and he noticed her cupcake was now topped with even more sprinkles, just a little bit of magic to sweeten their day. The doors swung wide, and people filled the cafe, chatting and sharing stories after the commotion. "Can we get ice cream too?" Mia asked, her voice full of hope as she looked between them. Jake leaned down. "How about we all share a big ice cream while we celebrate? Everyone deserves a treat today." Cheers erupted. The cafe felt like a community in that moment, family, friends, and even acquaintances united in joy, forgetting their worries, if only for an afternoon. In that bubble of elation, Jake felt a shift deep inside him, a sense of belonging he'd missed for so long. Perhaps the road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but he wasn't alone anymore. It was a new chapter, full of light and laughter, ready to be written. "Mia," he said, the swirling whirlwind of emotions settling into a calm confidence, "we've got this. Together." With Mia's laughter ringing in his ears, he stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. So here's the call, friends. You need to subscribe now to keep up with these inspiring stories. Leave a like right now to help spread positivity through the algorithm. Let us keep this energy flowing. Comment below your reactions and feelings about how Jake transformed your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey. Together, we can make a real difference.